Warner Brothers Entertainment, a company who has been producing everything in media from movies, television, music, and video games for over 100 years now. Being founded on April 4th, 1923, Warner Brothers became an early staple in media with their movies, and were notable for being one of the biggest competitors for Disney in their early years with their Warner Brothers cartoons founded in 1932. The studio produced the Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies, and introduced the icon of Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and many others. Warner Brothers would continue to grow into one of the biggest studios with a memorable material like the DC Universe, Hanna-Barbera Studios, and many, many classic films. During the 1990s, there were many Saturday morning kids blocks coming from major companies like Disney and Fox. And with their own channel in the WB, Warner Brothers decided to boost ratings by launching a Saturday morning block of their own, producing some iconic cartoons from their own studio and also syndicating content from companies like 4Kids Entertainment, NBC Universal, Wild Brain, and also borrowing some content from their sister channel Cartoon Network. So today, we'll be taking a trip through the timeline of Kids Dubba Dubba WB.
If you're gonna dubba, gonna do the dubba thing.
Gonna join the Dubba Club where the Dubba Dubba's cute.
If you wanna dubba, we can show you how. Get your body grooved, cause the dubba time's now.
We now return to Kids WB.
For many channels like the Kids WB, they would essentially have seasons of the channel block, which would last a year. New seasons would always begin in September, typically the second or third week, and can easily be seen by the premiere of new shows or new seasons of the shows on a certain day, or more noticeably, a change in the channel's bumpers. Starting us out on September 9th, 1995, the premiere of the channel was structured as a tour/celebration of the Animaniacs returning to the Warner Brothers lot after being primarily shown on Fox Kids, with the event being hosted by many familiar cast members from the existing WB network. The channel block's bumpers were formatted to be like a community of all of the WB and new Kids WB characters on the Warner Brothers lot, with an announcer and the cast members directly addressing the audience. 4 other new shows also premiered this day alongside Animaniacs: The Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries, the new spin-off show Pinky and the Brain, and Freakazoid, with all of these shows being produced by Steven Spielberg. And finally, Earthworm Jim, who made the move from video games to TV. Later that month, on September 11th, they also added the show That's Warner Brothers to the channel's lineup, which was made up of old Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies shorts. The show would continue on the channel, eventually changing to the name Bugs and Daffy in 1996. In 1996, the channel block's new season started on September 7th. With this celebration, they had the premieres of Superman the Animated Series and Road Rovers, with new season premieres of Freakazoid, The Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries, Earthworm Jim, Pinky and the Brain, and a 1-hour season premiere of Animaniacs. 2 more series premieres came this year with Wayne Head, a show from Damon Wayans on October 19th, and The Daffy Duck Show on November 23rd.
Kids WB is gearing up for a huge fall expansion. Coming through. That's right, we're building your best stop for brand new cartoons. Keep watching, because Kids WB is now under construction.
1997 started off their new season of the block by changing up the channel's bumpers. They added another announcer to the channel, as well as removing the appearances from the live-action members from the WB from the CGI lot. This time, going with the Kids WB logo bouncing around the new Warner Brothers lot, interacting with the Kids WB characters, construction equipment, and the iconic water tower. The logo would also notably get a color change that would become the official colors for the channel in September and last for 11 years until 2008. The new color scheme was however seen earlier for the first time in 1997 during the Kraft Basketoon sweepstakes with Kids WB, which featured the new color scheme back in April. This year, the channel had a lot of shows that were syndicated from Fox Kids, starting with Tiny Toon Adventures and The New Adventures of Captain Planet on September 1st. They had a couple of new premieres with the new Batman and Superman Adventures, which was made up of Batman and Superman the Animated Series, and would occasionally be aired alongside another edition this year, Men in Black the Series, and The Legend of Calamity Jane, to make up the action block, occasionally called Hour of Power or Heavy Duty Dubbas, which had its own unique bumpers with a darker action tone. Other shows that were added to the channel this year include Channel Umpty 3, and in some areas, Spider-Man, Casper, and Beetleborgs Metallics.
Dude.
1998 continued similar to last year, with the bumpers taking place on the Warner Brothers lot. This season of the channel started to feature the new announcer more.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's every weekday. I mean every strong day on Kids WB. So don't be weak this week, watch Kids WB and turn your weekdays into strong days.
Who, on a little side note here, is one of my favorite voiceover announcers of all time. If you grew up around this time, you know him and this guy.
And now, our feature presentation.
Were the absolute best. Only a few new premieres this year, with Hysteria first airing on September 14th, followed by Pinky, Almyra, and the Brain on September 19th, a spin-off from the main series that only lasted one season itself, with the last new addition being Brats of the Lost Nebula on October 10th. There were also a lot of shows that were shown in syndication with the Kids WB channel across the states, with different shows being aired in some areas but not others. A notable show that was shown in most areas was Invasion America, which came to the channel on September 19th. Other shows I came across were Pocket Dragon Adventures, Mummies Alive, Transformers Beast Wars, RoboCop Alpha Commando, and Sailor Moon. What were some shows that you remember being on the channel in your area but not others? In 1999, we see some big changes to the channel. Starting off the premieres early on January 16th, two shows premiered. The Cat and Birdie, Warner Rooney, Pinky Brainy, Big Cartoony Show, and Batman Beyond, one of my favorite shows from the channel. On February 13th, the original Pokemon series was added and quickly became a staple to the channel. The show would continue their seasons with each going under a different subtitle, such as The Road to Indigo, Adventures in the Orange Islands, the JoJo Journeys, JoJo League Champions, Master Quest, Pokemon Advanced, Advanced Challenge, and finally, Advanced Battle being the last shown on the channel. The only other brand new premiere to the channel was the show Detention, which aired on September 11th. More additions come from syndication, including Monster Rancher, Roswell Conspiracies, Aliens, Myths, and Legends, and Sonic Underground. 1999 would also be when Kids WB tried out some new bumpers along with a new slogan for the block. With the addition of ones that were more tailored to the shows being aired rather than the general Warner Brothers lot. They would expand their heavy-duty Dubbas bumper into a large city dubbed Action City, which would be featured during their action cartoons like Batman Beyond and the Men in Black. They also had new bumpers with custom-made clips from animation used in the shows, and finally, Pokemon adding a giant amusement park, with a big Pokemon stadium as its focus. The new season of the channel had a slight change to the bumpers that would show for commercials, and would also add some new bumpers featuring the Kids WB symbol. The new show premieres this year start off in February, with Max Steel first airing on the 26th. Then, on June 17th, Card Captors was syndicated over from Toonami, which actually had a crossover block called Toonami on Kids WB, which would go on to show many different shows from Cartoon Network's Toonami block. I also came across a show in syndication around this time, King Arthur and the Knights of Justice. Next was Generation O, a short-lived show which premiered on August 26th. Then, in September came two premieres, starting with Jackie Chan Adventures on the 9th, with the next two premieres both being in my top 5 shows from this channel, being Static Shock, which came out on September 23rd, and X-Men Evolution, first airing on November 4th. In 2001, there were shows added from the beginning to the end of the year, starting on January 27th with the premiere of the Zeta Project. Skipping to July, we get Rescue Heroes Global Response Team on the 21st, and another entry from the Toonami catalog with a short run of Dragon Ball Z on the channel, only lasting a couple of months. And on August 11th, Cubix Robots for Everyone would first air. The new season of the channel, starting on September 15th, saw the bumpers going back to the Warner Brothers lot with the characters from the shows interacting with each other, the environment, and the Kids WB logo. They would also introduce a new Next Up bumper with the pencil writing on the clapboard. They also premiered 3 new shows on the 15th, with The Mummy, Secrets of the Magi, an animated show based on the movie that just came out, YuGiOh, another show that would become a major player on the block. Much like Pokemon, it would go on to have its different seasons labeled with subtitles such as Enter the Shadow Realm, Waking the Dragons, and Dawn of the Duel. And finally, the forgotten middle child of the R.L. Stine TV family, The Nightmare Room, which only lasted 1 season. I don't know how I've never heard of this show until now. I thought I was an R.L. Stine fan. It even had Shia LaBeouf and Cole Sprouse in their second episode and Drake Bell in another one. I loved both Goosebumps and The Haunting Hour so much, as well as the Fear Street movies, so I definitely think I need to check this show out. Do you have a favorite R.L. Stine show?
Let's go.
2002 was a bit of a Scooby-Doo push, not only with the live-action movie coming out this year, but Kids WB would receive Scooby-Doo shows this year, starting with Scooby-Doo Where Are You on January 12th. There was also documentation that other Scooby-Doo shows aired on the block like the Scooby-Doo Show, Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo, and the new Scooby-Doo movies. However, I was not able to find any footage confirming that, besides one after-credits side screen which would confirm Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo. On May 25th, they added Phantom Investigators and the Powerpuff Girls on Toonami, which would only last on the block until July 13th. It seems that the channel would add a show from Cartoon Network each year in the summer only to take it off after a couple of months. In August, Mucha Lucha premiered on the 17th. With the new season of the channel starting on September 15th, adding the first Scooby-Doo series in 15 years, which is actually the longest the franchise has gone without a TV series. What's New, Scooby-Doo? And finally, the last edition this year was Ozzy and Drix, based on the movie Osmosis Jones. The new season continued with the same vibe to the year before, adding some more bumpers to accompany their new shows. But they did change the Coming Up Next bumper, changing it to the film strip. The first premiere in 2003 came on May 17th, with Mega Man NT Warrior getting a whole month dedicated to the release called Mega May, which had lots of promos and a sweepstakes. There were a couple of shows that I came across that I'm not sure if they were aired everywhere, but Puccini and Demina Leagues definitely were both on the channel. The last premieres this year both came on November 1st with Shaolin Showdown and Teen Titans, another one of my favorites. They would change the Coming Up Next bumpers again with the new season, this time going with an outdoor projection screen. With main bumpers staying on the Warner Brothers lot, adding lots of new ones with main ones used for multiple shows, like the security guard and the tower painting the characters, and the taxi picking up characters from the shows. Starting off at the beginning of 2004, Astro Boy premiered on the channel on January 17th. We then jumped to May 15th with another addition to the Toonami block in codename Kids Next Door, lasting until July 10th. During the summer, the channel also had a few months long event with the Mad Monkey Summer, which would eventually turn into a short-lived weekday block named Ooh Ooh Ah Ah Island just for kids. Finally, on September 11th, they premiered two shows, Da Boom Crew, and the show that would round out my top 5 from the channel, The Batman, which got its own whole event called Bat-tastic Saturday, with the season premieres of all of their shows along with the 2 series premieres and a sweepstakes. The bumpers actually saw a big change in September of 2004, now with CGI characters of the kids and the water tower with long noodly arms and legs, often referred to as the Bendies. With the coming up next bumpers also changing to a classic banner across the screen.
November, a month you will remember, where every show each Saturday is new. November, Kids WB's November, new YuGiOh, new Batman just for you. New Shaolin Showdown, blast on through new episodes with my Kung Fu, new Pokemon with Pikachu, new Lunatics unleashed, it's true. November, new Johnny Test, remember, and beautiful Joe makes his debut. November, where all shows are new. Here on Kids WB.
The only show to premiere before the new season of the channel this year was Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, which would air on Toonami and only lasted on the channel until August 27th. There was a notable change this year with their weekday block being renamed the After Toons Show, which would have the characters presented on a theater stage. The After Toons Show would last from April to December only in 2005. The new season changed their bumpers again from the year before, with the coming up next title showing on a sort of star path. The main new bumpers have the WB water tower transforming and the WB logo morphing into different things, also featuring live-action kids, with the season often called the Alter Egos Era. Starting on September 17th, they premiered 3 new shows, Coconut Fred's Fruit Salad Island, Lunatics Unleashed, and Johnny Test, with Transformers Cybertron first airing on the channel on September 19th, and finally, the last premiere being Beautiful Joe on November 5th. Two 2006 would sadly see the end of the Kids WB weekday lineup, with the channel cutting the whole weekday block with it now only airing on Saturdays, which would receive subtitles such as The Pillowhead Hour, Too Big for Your TV, Bring the New Saturday, and the Like Wow There's So Much New Stuff My Eyes Are Popping Out of My Head. The first premiere this year was Spider Riders, which first aired on the block on June 17th. Every other show that premiered in 2006 came out on September 23rd, which started off the penultimate season for Kids WB. The premiere started with Crypto the Superdog, then Monster Allergy, Tom and Jerry Tales, Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue, and finally, Legion of Superheroes. The bumpers didn't change much to the year before with the water tower and the logo, with the coming up next bumpers being similar to the star path but just the backlot as a background. '" 2007 only had premieres starting with the new season as well, starting on September 22nd. This saw a slight transition with the coming up next and the main bumpers going with a comic book panel style, as well as having coming up next bumpers with the rays as the background. This would remain as the style of the bumpers until the end of the block. The new series that came out this year start with Will and Do It, followed by Magi Nation, Skunk Fu, and Eon Kid, with a final edition coming in October, the Thumb Wrestling Federation. Coming to 2008, there would be 2 final additions to Kids WB, with the Spectacular Spider-Man first airing on March 8th, followed by World of Quest next weekend on the 15th. Both shows would move onto the next block for the channel, although World of Quest only aired for a few weeks until June 14th. As mentioned before, the bumpers remain the same with the comic book panel style and the water tower with the logo. This year would be a short one for the block, as May 17th, 2008 was the last day for Kids WB, with the channel getting its new name of CW4Kids that next Saturday on the 24th.
Next Saturday, this kids network's changing its name to the CW4Kids. So what does that mean? That means you're going to get more of your favorite shows, more brand new adventures, and more fun. Next Saturday, this network's name will become the CW4Kids.
CW4Kids Sign On.
You're signed on to the CW4Kids.
On May 24th, 2008, the channel block officially changed to the CW4Kids due to an agreement between the CW and 4Kids Entertainment, in which they would be given a 4-year deal and air many of the 4Kids shows on the network. For the first few months, the channel would keep the same vibe for the bumpers, with the comic book panel style and the sunrays background for the coming up next. Along with these, most shows that were still airing would be carried over from the Kids WB, such as The Batman, Johnny Test, and Kubrick's Robots for Everyone. But the new block would receive some new premieres before the start of their new season. Starting on June 21st, they premiered Chaotic, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Fast Forward, the first of many TMNT series that would go on to air on the block, followed by another similar series with the next in the franchise, YuGiOh GX. The new season of the channel would start on September 13th, with a whole restyling of the block to have a very computer and internet-based theme, with the block heavily pushing the CW4Kids.com website. The theme actually looks similar to scrolling through apps nowadays. The block would start with 2 new robotic announcers for the channel, but would also adopt some other normal announcers soon after, also basing its coming up next bumpers on this computer style as well. With the new season would come 4 new shows, starting off with Viva Pinata, then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Back to the Sewers, Dinosaur King, and YuGiOh 5Ds. There were technically 2 more premieres this year, with Go-Go Ricky first airing on September 27th, and finally, a sneak peek premiere of the first episode of Kamen Rider Dragon Knight would air on December 13th, with the series fully premiering next year.
You're signed on. You're signed on.
I'm signed on to the CW4Kids.
The premieres start early in 2009. On January 3rd, Sonic X, Huntic, Secrets and Seekers, and Kamen Rider Dragon Knight would make their series debut. This year would also feature the original season of YuGiOh as well as Rulers of the Duel, with 2 more new shows coming in the summer. Kirby Right Back At Ya on June 6th, and Winx Club on July 18th. In 2009, the block made an expansion to the Sign On theme, adding new bumpers with a video game style, which actually were carried over as they were the same bumpers used on 4Kids TV before it merged with the CW. Playing on a pinball machine, finding your way through a maze, or being in the driver's seat of a race car. Also including some new coming up next bumpers, with the characters almost like a pop-up card against a bland background. These would also be the style of the bumpers until the end of the CW4Kids block. The last show to premiere this year was Robots, coming out on September 19th. Only 2 premieres would air on the channel in 2010, starting with Magical Do-Re-Mi on April 24th, and finally, Dragon Ball Z Kai on August 14th, which would carry on to the next block. the CW4Kids block wouldn't completely go away. Instead, it would receive a permanent title, Toonzai.
You're watching on the CW4Kids.
Beginning on August 21st, the new Toonzai block would premiere and change the style of the Coming Up Next and main bumpers into a sort of comic book look. The new block would continue to air most of the shows that were on the previous block, not receiving its next premiere until September 2011. Jumping forward to September 17th, the next show to air on the block would be Tai Chi Chasers. This was also followed by YuGiOh Zexal on October 15th. After September 2011, the bumpers became very generic, with some having different environments, but most with just simple colored backgrounds. Coming to an end in 2012, Toonzai wouldn't add any more shows to the block. They would continue with the same bumpers as the year before, with the Toonzai name being retired on August 18th. Toonzai! The new subtitle for the block, Vortexx, was a result of Saban taking over from 4Kids Entertainment. It would see a restyling of the bumpers, with the only theme being a lightning tornado with geometric backgrounds, often triangles. Even with the new block, they wouldn't change too much to the channel, bringing over many of the shows already on the block, such as Dragon Ball Z Kai, Sonic X, and YuGiOh, and also bringing some back from older Kids WB like Rescue Heroes and The Spectacular Spider-Man. But Vortexx would waste no time in premiering new shows of their own. Starting out on the premiere of the block on August 25th, they first aired Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. Then, Iron Man Armored Adventures, Justice League Unlimited, and WWE Saturday Morning Slam. With the last premiere coming this year, Transformers Prime on December 8th. 2013 wouldn't see much change, with a small color shift to the overall bumpers from red to blue. The new premieres this year start on March 9th, with The Adventures of Nano Boy. Jumping to July, on the 13th, Bolts and Blip would come to the channel. The last shows to be added were The Adventures of Chuck and Friends, and B. Demon Crossfire, both on August 17th. This all brings us to the very last year the block would air on the channel, with only one premiere coming early in the year on January 25th, Digimon Fusion. The Vortexx name and the block as a whole would be taken off the air on September 27, 2014, due to the shifting viewership in cable, as well as FCC regulations to feature more educational content on their network and not being able to meet those needs. The block would be replaced on the CW by One Magnificent Morning, officially concluding the Saturday morning block that was once so iconic. From Vortexx to Toonzai, CW4Kids, and of course, Kids WB. Kids WB was iconic in many ways, producing many different shows that people have remembered for years and years. Obviously, my favorite shows were mostly DC oriented, with the Teen Titans, X-Men Evolution, Batman Beyond, The Batman, and Static Shock being my top 5 from the channel. What were some shows that you remember airing on the channel? What was the block or era that you remember watching? Who was your favorite announcer from the channel? Let me know in the comments below, as well as some channel that you might want to see covered. If you loved the channel, make sure to check out my playlists with all of my video sources that I used for this video. And also make sure to check out the other videos on my channel as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.